All right. So the ultimate goal of this podcast episode is just to show that I'm way cooler than David is, and that Adrian is probably going to want to be my best friend. Just saying.
Here's the deal, dude. If that was really the premise and the standard by which we judged our podcast, we wouldn't be over 100 episodes right now. Because we basically, I think we'll probably, and what's good about the podcast, I love it so much because we get guests like Adrian. But what I love is the fact that if that is the standard, we'll probably be well into the thousands and thousands of episodes and still going strong, based on that premise. So yeah, but it's going to be great.
Yeah. Adrian, what's up, man? Welcome to Filling the Storehouse podcast. Glad to have you.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it. It's warm down here in Florida.
Yep. I'm in my basement in a flannel, looking out at some snow, and plan on going snowboarding tomorrow. So it's the best of both worlds, right?
I'm talking.
Yep.
You got a beautiful mobile home picture in your background that we definitely need to talk about, because I know you're all about some mobile homes and investing. And hey man, if you could, so we met at a Life and Air retreat in Milwaukee, and I know you're a part of the Life and Air group. But if you could, man, just give us a little bit of background about who you are and why mobile homes, if you will. Let's start there.
Well, I started my real estate investing career as a tenant. This is about 19 years ago. I was 20 years old. I was a terrible tenant.
Nice.
Like the guy that got lots of eviction notices. I found them all a few years ago for having pudding wrestling parties and spaghetti wrestling parties and mud wrestling. I mean, all these terrible things. I understand now why we were terrible tenants. But anyways, but that led me to get evicted for the second time. And I had a family member that was a mortgage broker, and he said, why don't you buy a house? So I basically signed a piece of paper. Ended up costing me $1,500 to buy a house, which was less than deposit to move in. And I moved in all my friends that helped me get evicted. And I understood all of a sudden why it sucked to be on the other side. But in reality, it did turn out better than maybe the story sounds like it would go. We're all still good friends. And I lived for free because they all lived in a room. I split up the mortgage. I lived for free. I was like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I bought another property. Fast forward a little bit. We're at the top of the market, moving down and down and down. And I had an ARM, which is an adjustable rate mortgage.
Yikes.
But I was already losing a little bit every month before even that started going up. So the rate was going up while the market was going down. Not what I would have thought.
Yeah.
And the long story short there is short sale. It really dinged my ego. I held on longer than I should have because, I didn't want to lose. I'm putting air quotes there. And my short sale, that meant I lost and didn't feel good. But that helped because years and years later, after I started attending RIA meetings, networking, learning this whole other side of real estate that the banks don't talk about, mobile homes came in the picture because I was scared of the market 6 years ago. So I've been incredibly wrong. I thought we were at the top 6 years ago. Incredibly wrong. But that's how I found mobile homes, because I was searching for something new. And Life and Air happened about that time as well, that I joined a guy I really respected at one of the RIAs. He was a member. He was telling me about it. So I said, all right, he's smarter than me. And I attended. I'm still a member now. It helped. I believe in coaching a lot because it just helps guide you the right direction. And that's the very short story of why I'm in mobile homes. Or how I got to mobile homes. The why is cash flow. That's the big why. You can go either any direction you want there, or I can just keep rambling.
No, I think we're gonna go a bunch of directions. There's a very rich, fertile soil for discussion. One question I do have, why life in air? What appealed about life in air? Was it because you were in a RIA and the gentleman that you had met, got close with, was already life in air, and so it just was natural? Or was there something specific about the life in air path that you that resonated with you?
Actually, the very first time he told me about it, I looked it up. I saw the price point and I couldn't close the browser fast enough. I was like, no way. No, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then years later, I got more frustrated and I just decided, all right, I do want to get some type of coaching. And I had narrowed down to kind of life in air. I went to the 3-day event and there was a few pieces that I would say sold me, resonated with me. One of them was this calendar exercise where you put everything non-work on this calendar. And I was like, that's a cool concept. I don't want to work forever. And they also talked about, has anyone gone multiple months without working? And I had, because through the recession, I was actually doing event marketing full time. And that's one of the quick, easy things for big companies to cut. So I went 6 months without working, which was really cool because I was the guy that could hang out. You want to go lunch? Yeah. And now I didn't usually eat because I was on a very tight budget because I wasn't working. I could go hang out.
They bought.
Yeah. Or I would just have water. You know, I didn't have any problem just having water. And so just a lot of pieces like that resonated with me. You know, I decided, all right, I'll check it out. And I mean, that's my life in air family. T4 family is, I mean, we go on trips together outside of our mastermind retreats. And it just resonates with me a lot. You know, I know it doesn't with everyone, and other groups, other people are in and love, they don't resonate with me. I call life in air, if Tony Robbins and Dave Ramsey had a baby, it's life in air.
That's awesome. Oh, that's good. Well, so let's talk about, you know, the investing strategy that you're doing. You know, you're not buying mobile home parks, you're not syndicating, you're not buying land, you're buying individual mobile homes on a piece of land that looks similar to the one that's on your screen behind you in Florida, right?
Exactly. You're one of the few people to get that right from the beginning. Because we got to spend some time together. Because a lot of people think the parks, like you said, because that's that big, sexy item. You know, it's like a big apartment complex and big numbers, and you make big money. And then the other end of the spectrum that I don't do much of is owning just the home in the park. I don't really do that many of those, but this little middle ground has gotten forgotten, of the home and land together. And for the people not watching, you should be watching, but the one behind me is in pieces. I mean, it comes with most of the siding. It's pretty ugly. Most people would not think you can rebuild this, but we were able to, and rent it out. We have good people living there that want to live there. I was willing to fix this up because the area is where someone wants to live, not that they have to live. And it's just really good cash flow. In Central Florida, we have these things called hurricanes. And a lot of people don't realize, take mobile homes and turn them into hurricane missiles.
Right.
Up your way is tornado magnets, people call them. Yeah. But, you know, they are higher risk, so you need a higher reward, meaning higher cash flow. And I mean, we've been very, very fortunate. Never had any damaged. I mean, this is a 1960s and it's still there. It's been through more hurricanes than I've been through in my life. That's awesome. It's still there.
Yeah, that's crazy. And so I'm curious, how'd you get into, I mean, it's very niche, right? Like it's not, you know, Stu, when we were talking about, after he met you, he's like, oh, I met this great guy, Adrian. And he started explaining to me you know, because immediately after we get past the great guy stuff, you know, we talk about what we're doing, right? And what kind of real estate, and he was explaining, and I was like, oh, it's just super interesting. And I'm just curious, like, was this something that you know, through coaching that you were exposed to, or what even got you into this very specific investment strategy?
It was a little bit of all of things. One, I was at RIA meetings, and remember, I was scared of that last time that I lost the house on a short sale. So that memory was coming back. I was at the RIA meetings, and I heard these seasoned investors, the guys and girls in the back of the room. They don't need to buy another property, but they love real estate. They've probably been in the game longer than we've been alive. So those guys and girls all talked about mobile homes. Either they owned them currently or they used to own them. Like, well, they're smarter than me. I finally realized that. So I said, all right, I'm going to try one. And the cash flow was amazing. It was really, really good. I started telling my coach about it, and he was just, these are good numbers. I bought another one, and he also helped me realize what I wanted at that moment of life was cash flow. I didn't need equity. I didn't need appreciation. I didn't need any of these things. What I was searching for was cash flow. Now, I thought I was searching for everything. I wanted a piece of it all. But he helped me realize that at different parts of my life, I can then go and accumulate some equity if I even choose to. I don't go the refinance all the time route. I like some pretty low debt. So if I'm not going to refinance, equity doesn't do a lot for me. If I want cash flow to eat, to travel, to have fun with, that's really what I focus on.
To fund all the spaghetti and mud wrestling things that you, hey, but I think it's a super important point, because I think people get wrapped around the idea of net worth and all this equity. And Stu and I have always said personally, we're not, if we get equity out of the properties that we own up in Milwaukee, that's great. That's awesome. Because then we can potentially, there's options there. We could sell them, we could leverage them if we choose to. Ideally, we pay the debt off, and then there's a lot of room there. But I think people get lost in this idea of how much you're worth, your net worth, and it really means nothing. To me, it really means nothing. It's inconsequential if the place is cash flowing and my check every month is, cumulative check is whatever the goal is, that's what really matters. And I think a lot of times, we need to hear more seasoned investors talking about not net worth and none of that, but what's your cash flow and why is that important? And when you want to go day to day, pay your bills, well, equity doesn't pay bills unless you do something about it, right? Borrow against it, leverage, sell, whatever that may be. But I think a lot of people lose that, and they don't think that this is sexy. Not you, of course you are, but the behind you, this mobile home, they don't think that's sexy. But at the end of the day, cash flow is sexy.
You said exactly that. I actually have that on one of my slides when I'm at RIA, is that cash flow doesn't have to be sexy.
Yeah. Well, and I love it, dude. I love when people look at our properties in Milwaukee and they're like, oh, Milwaukee, gross. That they're not $1 million properties. No, but 10 of them might be, and who cares? And the cash flow, when I do get to $1 million of equity, the cash flow of that is relatively low risk because there's 10 of them. And it's relatively consistent, right? And they don't all have to perform at the same time, because the other ones will pay for the other ones and still get cash flow. So I think it's just a really important point. I really appreciate you sharing that.
And I got a quick story on that. I did have a few years ago this goal that I wanted to be a millionaire, $1 million of equity. I knew it was a silly goal, but my ego just wanted to say it. We got there and I ran all my numbers. I was like, yep, we're over. I told my wife, and she says, oh, it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, our coach is going to love that you said that, because he can't stand the idea of you have to have all this equity and
it's
this
crazy,
net worth and this stuff. He wants cash flow.
That's what Stu and I actually just talked about the other day. We did a personal financial statement, and Stu told me what his net worth was. And that was my first question. I said, oh, that's interesting. Do you feel like it? And he's like, nope, sure don't. Because it just doesn't matter, right? It just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yep. Totally agree.
Hey, give us just an example of a mobile home deal that you've done, just to kind of give an example of like cash flow and what that looks like for people, because I don't think a lot of people do this type of investing. So it might intrigue somebody.
Well, I'm going to give you two different examples. One of them will be the older ones, like in my picture here.
Yeah.
And if you're in California or something, you know, obviously you have to always add that 0 or 2 or 3 of them on there. But this could be a 60s and 70s, and that's an important, it could be 50s as well. We haven't done anything in the 50s, but older than the 80s, technically is older than 1976. No banks will finance. There's a few that will talk about doing the 77, 78, 79, but you can basically say they're not going to. That means the price drops a lot, because if you can't get bank financing, you have investors and you have a few people that when they have 20, 30, 40, $50,000 that they actually want a free and clear property, because society taught them to go put that as a down payment on a $200,000 or $300,000 house.
Right.
So there's less competition there. And so those are also more dangerous, because we talked about the hurricanes. Just like older homes, you have the aluminum wiring. They're just not built as well. Yep. And before the 76, there really wasn't much code of how they had to be built. Well, what were we buying those for? Now, this is 2019 is when we bought a lot of the older ones. And before that, I'd be all in at $25,000, $30,000. That means purchase, rehab, closing costs, you know, a real all in. And I was able to rent those easily for $700 a month.
Wow.
So you don't have to get
awesome
a calculator
numbers.
out. As one of my mentors said, good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so and just out of curiosity, can you explain the bank financing piece? Like why is that? What is, you know, that it seems like an arbitrary cutoff for a mobile home to me.
So June 15th, 1976, that's the date that the federal government HUD put on saying you have to build these with a certain quality. Gotcha. Before that, it was kind of wild. There was some type of quality, but it was toothpicks. They didn't have to have much of anything. There has been a few other changes throughout the years, but the banks won't touch it at all. The big banks, they say they won't go back more than 20 years. So if you're going to go something in the 80s and 90s, early 2000s, you really got to go to community bank, credit union. You know, I network a lot, so I talk to them to kind of feel out what they will do, but we don't use banks at all. We like private money, and we're not afraid to use our own cash, even though it doesn't always look the best on paper, like we talked about, but it feels good. And owner financing is another really big. Most people in these older homes, they know you can't get financing. They might have bought with some type of owner financing. So when you bring it up, it's not this brand new topic, and it's not like, just go to a bank. Why can't you go to a bank? I don't get that rejection. So it's been a little easier to get the owner financing because of that. I'm willing to pay someone what they're asking if they'll take payments. And I believe it benefits them more. And then same thing with private money, it benefits my friends more. I like writing a check to someone I know, and I know their life. I know I'm helping them get to their retirement faster, or their kids save for their college fund, the CISA accounts. That feels good. Bank of America doesn't give me any gratitude to pay them.
Yeah, dude, we're the exact same way, man. We love working with private lenders, and I mean, we pretty much buy everything with private money. Like, it's not a lot of fun going to the bank and trying to get loans from the banks, even if they are way lower percentage, rates in general terms. But so those are the older deals. What about a newer deal?
So nowadays, I will still buy this, but I'm looking a little bit more on newer, nicer properties that have just stronger bones. I'm gonna get a lower ROI on those, but they already have newer roofs. They're built to withstand a hurricane. Quote unquote, upgrading my portfolio. if this deal comes along, I'm still going to buy it as long as it fits our box of location. That I'm very picky on location now because I want to get the right resident in there. And that's more important because now I value time a little bit more. Before, when you're starting out, you just do whatever. You're up late, putting out signs. You do all the time maintenance stuff. And now I'm trying to get rid of that. So what does that look like? Recently bought one for 101,000 on an acre. It's a 97, which is the newest I've ever bought. Never bought one that new. And people still think that's crazy. That's really old, but to me, it's good. In Florida, that does mean that it has the new up to code tie down and straps. That's how the wobbly box doesn't fall over when the hurricane comes.
Nice.
It like physically straps it into the ground.
Okay.
So that's a plus. That doesn't mean I won't buy it if it doesn't have that, but pluses. All right, so back to it. It's good location. It's in the path of progress. This is actually a killer deal for me. The tenant in there is paying $800 a month, and he should be paying $1,800 to $2,000.
Wow.
So that was one of the problems, and the sellers, they didn't want to deal with that. They didn't want to remove him at all. So I actually told them, hey, you should go to a realtor. We have a mutual friend that's a realtor. They didn't want to do that. They wanted their problem solved. So bought it, got $105,000 interest only loan that I'm still going to be able to cash flow even at that $800. That's important to me because what if we can't get them out right away? The different things. I'm very conservative with that. And we're in the process right now. We tried to actually talk to him to see if we could slowly raise it. He wasn't happy. So now he's not a good fit for our portfolio. So he's going to have to leave. We just sent him the letter that it's going straight to 1,800. There is going to be no 6 months, slowly stepping him up. It's probably worth, I didn't run hard numbers, but 200 easy. I know
That's
the
awesome.
area. I know people that live in that area and what they paid a few years ago, and very conservatively. They're still out there though. That's a home run deal.
Yeah.
But they're out there. People say they can't find deals today, especially in my market. I'm in between Tampa and Orlando. People say that this is an overdone market. I network a lot.
Yeah, I think it's great that they say that. It's good for you.
Yeah.
And one thing that also strikes me is there's also this idea that I reject that, you start out at a certain thing, right? You start out single family home, and then the natural progression is to go to small, multifamily. And then of course the natural progression from multifamily is apartment complex. And it's always bigger, bigger, bigger. It's almost like the net worth thing. And what Stu and I, we really enjoy single family homes. Could we do bigger deals and other things and seek that? Yeah, sure. Of course we could, you can network and you can find those deals, but we enjoy having a portfolio of single family homes. And what I love is that you are very firmly in this, this strategy that you have. And it doesn't seem like you have any concerns with graduating up or moving up or any of that. You're plugging into your market and crushing it. And I love that, man. I think people need to hear that too. Like, is your passion in apartments? Then go do apartments, right? You should do apartments if your passion is apartments and you want to serve a certain clientele and whatever that looks like, or if you want to be an operator of big projects. But I love how you're crushing it and you're just continuing to advance your portfolio and your strategy in this niche market. But it seems like you're very happy with it and you don't intend to go, maybe you'll diversify, but it's not like you feel like you need to graduate out of these mobile homes.
The exact opposite is what I've been doing. I've been selling off our single families. We don't have any more of those, and using that money to go into mobile homes. In 2019, we sold one single family. It was just about $200,000. And I took that money and bought 7 mobile homes with the land. But the exact opposite is you just said, everyone wants you to go bigger, bigger, bigger. I went the other way. my cash flow went up 8.5 times with the same dollar. Actually, so let me clarify the same dollars. We took $10,000 out of the 1031 exchange because we like to spend a little bit of money. You know, I'm not doing this all for just the future when I'm old and can't do anything. But then we did have to put $50,000 into repairs between all 7. So really, we took $40,000 out of our pocket to increase our cash flow by 8.5 times. And touching on the niche, I was actually scared to niche only to this. So for the people watching, my shirt that I'm known for it says, "My wife buys mobile homes." The original shirt said, "My wife buys houses and mobile homes." And in that T4 group and the mastermind, they were pushing me, get rid of the word houses. It's like, no, I want to wholesale the houses. They said, no, get rid of it. You got to niche down. And honestly, I got rid of it to prove them wrong. And they were right.
Yeah, that's awesome. You
That
did what they said to
tight
prove them
niche.
wrong.
Yep. And nowadays, you know, I've done that a few times there. And nowadays, when they all say it, you know, they're right. I don't try to prove them wrong anymore.
Dude, I love that, man. That is so cool.
The marketing, I love your marketing, man. It's great, man. We have to, I might have to get a T-shirt from you. And
I've got when I'm up there, I'll bring you. We have some that it's my friend's wife buys mobile homes.
Oh,
that's awesome.
nice.
Yeah. Hey, so I wear extra large, and Stu is a children's medium.
All right, we'll bring them both. Hey, can I touch on that marketing real quick? Because
yeah.
I think I've seen it so much where people just copy something and they don't work out. And I believe it's because you're copying someone else's personality. Like,
yeah, dude,
this shirt is my personality. If I had something that was the polo, the very classy, you know, the corporate look, I'm not that feel in person, and I'm gonna come off as fake when I go to see that person.
Yeah,
I want to be the person next door. That's who I am. That's my personality. I want to sit down and talk about everything, not even their home. And I believe there's, well, more than two, but 2 main types of people. Someone that wants that big corporate feel, and then someone that just wants the person next door.
right.
And I'm going to help the person next door and let someone else help the people that are looking for that big corporate feel. And I did a little test marketing with a friend that he's that big corporate. He's the Grant Cardone feel. I mean, he does massive stuff. It's great. We're no competition. I put bandit signs out of his and mine right next to each other. And we got about the same amount of calls, but no one called both.
Mm.
It was a very small test market. And I did a few other small ones on that, but I just quickly said, there's 2 types of people, and I'm going to niche down and help one type and let him help the other type.
Dude, I think that's so powerful, man. You're full of like gems that I think are you know, were unintentional to this conversation. Dude, I cannot emphasize, you know, Stu and I just went to a big conference, and I'm like, hey, what are you going to wear today? He's like, hey, dude, I'm gonna wear my flannel and my Storehouse hat. Well, we didn't really, I'll be honest, we didn't really fit in. It was big multifamily. There's a lot of, you know, dressed up, but that's not us.
Suits, a lot of ties.
Suits, ties. And I'm not judging that at all. But, and I knew that those people would potentially judge, you know, based on what we wore. But the people I want to attract and the people that I want to be surrounded by, like, I know who I am. And I'm very comfortable in that. And I think it's so important, especially when you're talking, it's not just know thyself, like, you know, all that good stuff. It's also very, very applicable to business and to your podcast and to who you're trying to appeal to. And like, I have no qualms putting a dumb dad outfit on Facebook, and people looking like, dude, you look like a goob. I'm like, dude, that's how I roll.
I am a goob.
You are a goob, but I think you hit it right on the head, is that people will immediately see through the other stuff, right? And so why even spend time there? if one, it's not you, two, you're not comfortable there, three, you're kind of faking it anyways. Like, just don't even, just be who you are, and you will attract, Stu is going to attract like ugly dudes that don't like think about stuff deeply. Like, that's who he's going to attract. I don't know what that says about me. I don't know. I just gave myself, it was a self-indictment.
Yeah, right.
But dude, I think that is such a gem, man. And I love it because, like, I couldn't rock your shirt. I couldn't, but you do, and you're crushing it. And I think that those are hand in hand, because you're not being somebody that you're not. And I think that just is a huge takeaway. So spend time figuring, if you don't know who you are and where you're comfortable, spend time figuring that out before you put a marketing plan together, because people are going to see right through it, dude. And they're not going to invest with you.
And everyone has something unique about them. And that's what sets you apart, is that little unique. Before I had the shirt, when I would go to a RIA that people were more dressed up in collared shirts, I almost always wore a Ninja Turtle shirt because I like Ninja Turtles.
Nice.
And it also helped set me apart.
Yeah, it's a conversation piece.
Yeah, because they remembered me, if they liked it or not. But then I would go to like a more laid back, sandals, some paint on the shorts, t-shirt, meetings. And sometimes I would wear a collared shirt, which I did feel uncomfortable wearing, but I knew it would set me apart again. And the yellow shirt, without realizing it, it was brand recognition, which is not my goal with it. But what it did is it helped people remember me over the other 20, 30, 40, 50 people there much, much, much faster. So I didn't have to attend as much, which I love meetings, so I always go. I'm a meeting junkie. But I built a name for myself because of the shirt they remember, not my face. I had a unique thing to me. I've seen people do it with different color hair or hats, like you guys have the hats. I've seen people do it with shorts, gold chains with an ice cream on it. One of my mentors always, because that's where he got most of his money from before real estate. Just something unique and fun that's you.
Yeah, dude, that's good, man. Hey, I want to transition a little bit to the other stuff that you're doing. The shirt you're wearing now, lifestyle REI. You've gotten into some coaching yourself, some education yourself, and I want you to plug all that stuff along with the book that you wrote. But one of the things that you and I sat down and talked about at our retreat was all the stuff that we're talking about, this focus and this mindset. And if you could, man, like, tell our audience a little bit about what it takes to shift your mindset and really focus in on what your life's all about, and how you've gone through that transition yourself.
Radical focus, I think, is the most important piece of all of this. It's hard. I don't get me wrong. It's really hard at the beginning, but it's that momentum. As soon as you start getting some of it, you realize how much it works. I don't know exactly the piece I started with. Jim Rohn was probably the first I was introduced to in the self-help world. I love him still. He's one of my favorites. Hal Elrod is probably my top guy in that world. It's a Miracle Morning.
Yeah, man.
I think I've probably heard everything he has. I mean, I might be a podcast or two behind, but he lives a very genuine life, and I think he's very open out there. But he basically just talks about these 7 things that everyone, when he was looking, he was in the press as a life coach. Is his quick story. He's like, well, how can I even tell anyone? I'm not doing what I'm telling people to do. So he researched and he found 7 things that he could not narrow down any deeper than that. From like what Oprah was doing, Jim Carrey, like big names that are really successful. And I'm not going to remember all the savers exactly, but I'll say my morning routine, what I took from that, I'm on probably my 6th year of missing very few mornings, is I meditate every morning. I read something positive. These days, it's not real estate. It's education and mindset, meditation, something in that world. I have my coffee or hot tea while it's warming up. I'm doing incantations to get my mindset right. I'm doing some stretching, some type of exercise, getting the blood flowing. In the perfect world, that's about an hour and a half. I love that time. And I can tell you the days that I do that, I'm way more productive. I'm happier. Everything just seems to go the right way. If I miss a day, doesn't kill me. But if I miss multiple days in a row, I'm just not as productive. I'm not as happy. It's just setting that tone for the day. And it took me years to realize how important that was. And I mean, that's what I think is so important about not just coaching, but some type of mastermind group, that you have people reminding you of that. You know, we joke around a lot in our mastermind, the T4, of, well, did you get back to the basics? Are you doing your basics? Everyone has a different basics of what just sets them right. And a good group will also challenge you when you get off. If I went there and said, I'm thinking about getting into multifamily, you better bet they're going to question me so hard to see why I want that, because it's not focused. Now, I do have some diversification money. People, you got to diversify. People talk about that. I don't believe in diversifying until you have one thing going really well. So I have money in self-storage. I don't do anything. It's a private money. I lent money. I own 3.35% of a self-storage facility. And the only reason I've seen it is I randomly happened to be going in that area and I drove by it. That's the only reason I've seen it more than the pictures. It helps me get diversified, but I stay right in my lane. This is my little thing that works really well for me. And I'm continuously honing that in. Right now, I have a lead that came in from a friend of 2 mobile homes on 1 lot. It doesn't fit my perfect box. Now, 3 years ago, I would have bought it. No questions asked, even though I knew it didn't fit my perfect box. It doesn't now. But what I'm looking at doing is, I know another investor that he's newer. He's done a few deals. I've seen his work. He's come and worked on some of my properties. We're going to look at doing some type of JV agreement. Maybe I bring the money, he brings the work, and he manages it, because it's not going to fit my box to manage it. That's what I don't like about it now. So I can still make some money with it, or I can just lend him the money. We can set up however, but it doesn't fit my tight box. I keep repeating that because I've created that, and it's going to change. New market, as the market changes, that box is slowly changing every single time we rent something, every time we buy something. We do an after action review. What went right? What went wrong? What could we fix or tweak? What did we learn? And we attempt to make those corrections. I can talk for another 3 hours on this, probably, or maybe 3 days. I love the topic of it because it's so important. And people don't go to a meeting to talk about radical focus or meditation or the mindset stuff. Only the people that are already convinced it works. But it's so important.
Yeah, man, you hit a lot there. I love the desire to plug in with a group of folks that will hold you accountable to make you better. And sometimes they highlight the things that will make you better that you don't necessarily see. I think that's a power of accountability. I know, in the last 3 years, Stu and I have changed significantly our mindset towards paying for that kind of, thing. And I think it gets lost a lot too. You look at the price tag of something like Life and Air, but I imagine the money that it's made you or saved you or whatever has paid multiple times over whatever you pay to the Life and Air.
I can actually put that on a spreadsheet for just dollars because of private money I've gotten. But the bigger side that we just talked about, the mindset, I mean, I would pay 10x or 100x what I paid, and the friendships and those different things, I'd pay 100x for it. But I can put on a spreadsheet for the spreadsheet people that need it. I actually have done that for people who are like, look, here's the returns I have on the money, and the people that took the chance on me, my first private money. came from that room. And that was another mindset shift. I needed money because it ran out. We talked about these old trailers can't get financing. And my coach was saying, all right, well, present people with an opportunity. Don't go beg for money. And there was someone else in the room that was looking to lend money. Well, that guy heard me for 3 retreats in a row tell the group my biggest problems. So now he knows my biggest problems, and he's like, okay, this is how he solved them. This is how he handled it. I know what he's like when things go wrong or not right. You don't need to know the best of everyone. Like the important times when things go wrong, how are you going to handle it? Yeah. So he gave me the money, and that shifted. The banks teach us to put on our best suit and walk in and beg for money. I have an opportunity for you to make money. It's the way I present it now. And it works. And if you know the right and wrong that people have done and how they've solved the problems, I think it's more powerful.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Dude, tell us about Lifestyle REI, because you now you're in this position where you have this business going, you have these systems and these processes, and on your website you talk about being a full-time landlord with part-time work. And you and I've talked about your goal is to be bored, and you have a personal assistant that basically does everything for you now. So talk about some of that with Lifestyle REI.
Let's talk about my assistant first, my office manager,
yeah.
Jill. She started, actually I need to look it up. This month, March, will be 4 full years. She started at a guaranteed 4 hours a week of pay, and she did not even work that much. Had no desire to ever have an office manager, anyone, a W-2 employee. I would have said, no way, not doing it. I needed someone to answer the phone because I didn't like doing it. So that's what she started with. And her position has just grown to where she's a W-2 salary employee, which is wild to me to think that I have that.
Yeah.
But my life wouldn't be what it is. She is really good at what it takes to check a checklist, to create these how-tos, to actually follow a system. And we all know that if you do the same thing every time on systemized stuff, like when you're going to rent a property, a system is really good. When you're going to find properties in marketing, it can be good, but being different. So there's some areas you really want it. And she's really good at that. I'm not. I'm the Imagineer. I do it this way one time, and another time I'm like, oh yeah, I should have done this already. And I already, I'm last minute, midnight, like, oh, I need to have this done for tomorrow. We closed today. I didn't turn power on. That's the stuff that would happen. And she's really good at that. So that was a life changer. And then I decided let me tell you how I started in the speaking world. Local people said, hey, I want you to speak at my RIA. Super scary, like physically shaking while I was reading stuff at one of the RIAs. But I started enjoying it. And in 2020, I decided I was going to teach a class. It's actually the full-time landlord part-time work, because I've taken pieces of different courses and added technology, and our stuff is systemized pretty well. That was my mindset, that people will actually pay me for what I have to say. I knew that was possible, but it's still, until it happens, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't work in the brain. But I did that as a webinar. It did really well. I let it sit for a bit, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the speaking, the teaching. It was just fun to me. So then I spent a few months building a vision over what I want that, we'll say, a business, because it is a business, to look like. I didn't want to have the money from it. If I decided tomorrow, all right, I'm done, my life wouldn't change. Maybe I go on a few less vacations, but I would not be living on it. I don't want to do coaching, I realized. Talking to lots of people, it's just not my personality at this point in my life. So I said, all right, coaching's out. And people should be doing this exact thing when they're trying to figure out their niche within real estate. If it's mobile homes, multifamily, notes, all those different things. This one sounds okay, this one doesn't, and you mark it off. and I build a vision on the education side. I love traveling, so I want to speak in person more than on Zoom because it fulfills my want for travel. But why I speak and teach, I've learned a ton from my mentors, and some of my mentors talk about a lot of gray area that they won't let be recorded. And I think it's very important to repeat those stories so that it can expand your mind. Like I hear stories and I'm like, I would never do that. But I typically have a really good idea shortly after because it just made me think in a different way. You know, the common term is thinking outside the box, but Pete Fortunato is one, he would say, what box? There is no box to even think outside of. So it's just that creative thing. So I want to be able to pass on. I really enjoy it. It checks a lot of my boxes. I want to help others. I mean, I have pretty sweet life. I mean, nothing to ever complain of. I've had some really hard times in life, don't get me wrong, but I've always overcome them. And I want also those hard times, I want to pass on, hey, this is what I did to get through that. It may work for you, it may not, but do something and inspire others. That's my quick on the whole lifestyle REI. So yeah, I'm teaching now, wrote a book. It's fun. Fun is my key word for it. I keep going back to that word. As long as it's fun and I'm enjoying it, I'm going to continue doing it.
When I imagine that was part of your vision, right? That it was fun and enjoyable, and that you specified to that level of detail.
Yep. And I'm going to be up in Wisconsin in May, and I have like time blocks that I'm like, oh, I'm going to go visit my friend in between these things and different friends. That's what I want to do. I want to have some off time. I don't want to be speaking every week because then it becomes like I have to do this and I have this deadline every week or every few days. I have to do something. I want to fit in friends in between.
Yeah, I love that, man. I think, being that transparent in your own vision is, it's like someone like me, if I'm just working and I'm not fellowshipping, having fun, doing things, it's just not, I just don't want to be there. Right. That's why I stayed in the Navy for 20 years, because I enjoyed my interaction with sailors, with other officers, and camaraderie. Like I loved it. And so, it didn't seem like 20 years. And I think it's important to do that. I think people stay in things for the wrong reasons. And, my group yesterday, we had a call, the platinum group, and a couple spoke up, and man, it was immediately, man, everybody was challenging them. They're like, hey, why? And they were struggling through, and it was good, very good for them. And it was good for me to hear that. And it's just it's an amazing thing to have a group, and then to really challenge yourself to figure out what's important. And if you don't mind, talk to us about that book.
Yeah, so I wrote a book. It's How to Buy Mobile Homes. And one of the reasons I wrote the book was to give back. It's information, but also I wasn't the kid in school that people would ever think I wrote a book. I mean, I don't even know, but I probably read 2 or 3 books through all of high school and college. When you had to read those books, I didn't read them. I would figure a way out to pass without doing well on that book report. And so I was in some remedial classes and this and that. Anyway, so I like to break the norm. If you tell me I can't do something, I like to prove you wrong. So a little bit was that. And I basically tell my story, a lot of what I said today, in more detail of kind of storyline, and inserting how to buy mobile homes, what you need to look for, some flooring, the VIN, the tie downs. And it was really a fun process. I did not expect it to be the most fun. The grammar and the spelling, I was like, I don't know how that's going to be. And that was actually one of the easiest. I hired a coach, as we've talked about. Coaching is so important. So that took all of the, I'll say, stress off of it, because I didn't have to worry about, well, what do I do in 2 or 3 steps? Like, now I'm just going to have a call and he's going to tell me what to do. And I always ask him, like, well, what's my homework? And I go back and I do my homework.
It's awesome.
And then I'm like, okay, well, what's next? I didn't have to worry. That was a big relief. It's funny, the cover designing the cover was the hardest part.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that was gonna be fun, but I couldn't get out of my mind what I wanted on a cover to the guy that was designing it. And I was telling that story to Bill Cook, one of my mentors in the real estate. He's like, that's just like when you're talking to a seller and you're at the table and they don't quite know what to say of what they really want for the house besides cash. It's like, so you have to keep giving options over and over. And all right, what did you like about this one? What did you not like about it? And that's what the cover designer did. He would throw some options out there. He probably did, I don't know, 15 different revisions. And the first few looked nothing like this at all. He had to keep going back with feedback from me. So it was a great learning lesson that he made me realize that's the same as real estate. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the book, it is, at the moment that we're recording this, I'm on day 2 of the launch. It's been fun to launch it and have it on Amazon, and it's going to feed part of my vision and stuff I like doing. I'm going to do book signings at craft beer breweries that also have libraries.
That's awesome.
And I learned that that's a thing, because there's one in my town, but they're all over the country. I'm like, oh, that's sweet. That sounds like an awesome thing to do on a Wednesday, Thursday night. It brings a crowd in. And worst case, I have some free craft beer and sleep in the motel next door. That sounds like an awesome night to me.
That's so funny, dude. Well, I challenge you. I personally don't think you can fully fund our fund. So there's a challenge for you.
Fully fund your fund?
Yeah, we have a fund. I'm just challenging you. I don't think you can give us enough money to fully fund it. So we'll talk offline.
Yeah, that goes to that diversification thing.
Yeah. Hey.
You're really good at what you do, so why am I going to reinvent the wheel?
Yeah, there you go.
It gives me some diversification. Let's talk.
Sweet.
Well, dude, this has been a lot of fun, man. So one, how do people get the book? And 2, where's the best place to find you and connect with you more?
The easiest way to find me is adriansmude.com. ADRIAN S, M as in Mary, U, D as in dog, E as in Edward.com. And that is basically a landing page that pushes you to my education, which is lifestyle-rei.com. But it also pushes you to my wife buys mobile homes, like the buying page, because you should be looking at other people's pages so you can get some ideas, tweak it to your creativity and your personality, and don't reinvent the wheel. So it's on both of those. You can go to howtobuymobilehomes.com. That's just going to redirect you, and you can buy the book on Amazon.
Nice, man. Well, we'll put all those links in the show notes for sure. Hey, man, good to see you again. Hopefully we'll see you when you come to Denver, or worst case scenario, we'll see you when we come back to Milwaukee or Wisconsin, Appleton for the next retreat. Man, this was fun. Glad to.
Sounds great. Appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah. Hey, Adrian, thank you so much, man. I think it's the value you add to people. You're obviously extremely giving of your expertise and your talent. So I'm just super appreciative. This was really fun, very informative. And I love, I just want to reiterate, I love the gems that you threw out there about, marketing, knowing yourself, being true to yourself, the cash flow perspective, I think there's so much richness in all of that. And it could really help, especially newer investors, to take some steps that can really set the foundation and help them as they continue to grow and experience the fruits of their labors. And I think it's pretty rad, man. So thank you for your time. You're awesome. Can't wait to meet you in person.
You're welcome. And thank you guys for having the podcast, because it doesn't fit my vision to do the hard work that people don't see behind the scenes of a podcast. I get to just jump on here and have fun, and you guys do all the hard work. So thank you for doing that, and for spreading all this for everyone else to hear the knowledge from not just me, all your other guests.
Let's get this straight right now. David doesn't do a whole lot of work. He kind of is like you. He just shows up, Really the brains and the bronze behind it all is this guy. But
he sounds pretty smart. He outsourced all the work to you, Stu.
Hey, my man.
Oh,
my man.
You got me. Well, guys
Hey,
and
well,
gals, hey, check out Adrian. Go buy his book, and check out his websites if you're interested in mobile homes. He is a wealth of knowledge. He's a pretty cool guy. Share this podcast, screen share it, tag us, and most importantly, go fill your storehouse.
Make it a great day, friends. Thank you, Adrian.
Thanks,
You're
Adrian.
awesome.
See you.
Welcome. Thanks, guys.